Favorite writing. Zeke, we'll have you go first this time around.
Okay. This one was always tough for me because writing is something that's super important to me personally. And I get to see a lot of games with a lot of different writing styles. And I had to, weigh a few games, but the one with the writing that stuck with me the most, no question, mouthwashing.
I'm glad you put this on there. I have, yeah. Okay. I read the
Nice.
I read the description of this game in full, just to experience what everyone else was experiencing.
The writing in the game, like, I don't usually go in for games with PS1 style graphics, and this one definitely has PS1 style graphics. Not a huge fan of that aesthetic. However, the writing in the game was well done, surprising, chilling, made you just hate certain characters in the game, made you throughout. And it was only, I don't know how long the game was. I want to say like less than 3 hours.
Yeah, it wasn't very long. At least the narrative that I read wasn't very long.
Yeah, it was less than 3 hours. 2.8 hours is what I had to go through the entire game.
Got it.
And like in that 3 hours, you love a character. You hate that same character later. You turn around on a different character. You figure out like what the fuck is actually happening here. And it is like super well done. And it's one of those games that if you play it, I suggest you do. I definitely recommend it. It's only 3 hours. It leaves you with that, like, it leaves us like a stain on you. It's like you remember it afterwards and you think about it afterwards. And you're like, oh, and you make like, I made like icky faces. I'm like, oh, that motherfucker, like shit like that after you walk away from it. It's just, it was a surprise. Because it was just an indie day suggestion. Someone was like, try mouthwashing. I'm like, all right. And then I played it. I think I played a demo. And then I was like, this game has something special. And then I came back when it was in 1.0, I think, and played the whole way through. Man, worth it. Absolutely worth it. Haunting. Very good.
Yep. Fantastic.
Very cool.
Glad that it was on your list. I'll go next. This one, much like Zeke, but for completely different reasons, was probably the hardest category for me. And it's mostly because I don't play a lot of games with like fleshed out narratives. On my like completed list this year of games with fleshed out narratives.
Hold on, let me guess.
Was Dragon Age, which is not my favorite writing, but that's one of the games I played with a very long narrative. And like 2 others. Zeke, what's your guess?
I'm going to guess you picked Rat Shaker.
No, but
I'm gonna guess Marvel Rivals.
it is actually Metaphor.
There it is.
Yeah.
I was going to say, like, it's got to be Metaphor.
Fantasia. Yeah, and I actually, for what it's worth, I've been on stream and have actually expressed my more than like my dislike of the actual writing in Metaphor. But from all the games that I completed, there were like standout narratives, characters, little story threads throughout the game that I was like, no, that stuck with me. Like I
absolutely do not blame your choice at all.
Yeah.
It was definitely in the running for me as well. It's just the hammer that they choose to pound you on the head with at times.
Yep.
Was like, that's a little much.
Yep, I'm right there with you. Yeah, and like I said, it was this. The top 2 was this or Dragon Age, and I felt like if I chose Dragon Age, a sniper would actually take me out that Ko is hired from probably 2 miles away.
Well, not that I've hired. I don't care. The gamers do.
I know. Well, Co/gamers. Okay, Co/gamer/Co.
Code does not care enough about your urges to hire a sniper. No offense.
No, okay.
I don't care about anyone how much they care about a game to do that.
Okay.
But there are some very opinionated, angry gamers.
That's true.
Yeah.
Capital G Gamers would have hired.
There we go. Okay, there we go.
There we go. Co, what was your favorite writing of 2024?
So this is interesting. This one was tough for me. And I do, unlike you, I play a lot of narrative heavy games. Just had a great one named Indiana. We had played Yakuza, the new Yakuza game earlier this year. For me, though, one of the things about this category is which game did I play that I remember having the most like reactions to the writing? Not necessarily consistent good writing, because I played a lot of games that had consistently good writing this year. But which ones had like the most writing that made me laugh or my jaw drop or had the most like events that happened? I cannot believe I am saying this. My favorite writing in 2024 was Stalker 2. And I am baffled that this is a timeline where I can say that in, considering the first 3 games like barely even had a cogent narrative. So man, I tell you, like the amount of times that I'd be listening in on a conversation and hear something awesome or do a quest that actually had well-written immersive dialogue or done a main story and something happened that made me actually be like, holy shit, or gotten to a location, like read through the writing and notes about what it was and be like, oh, this is such a cool area. Like, it's not just the writing in Stalker 2 that's incredible. It's the whole package, how everything ties together, how everything has its place, how everything's fleshed out. The amount of lore in Stalker 2 is arguably more than the first 3 combined. And it's crazy how much they answer. So this is absolutely from a Stalker fan, but you know, I played a lot of games this year, and that's the one that had the most kind of like interesting, cool stuff for me in terms of dialogue and writing.
Sure. I think if you were to ever
very, very close second to Indiana Jones, though. I gotta say, I waffled.
I was gonna ask where it was for you.
Yeah. The thing about Indiana Jones, though, is I had to say that I loved the writing in Indiana Jones, and I definitely was surprised a little bit. But one of the reasons I loved Indiana Jones' writing was because of how amazingly poignant it was to what Indiana Jones is. Like, there was probably 7 or 8 times in that game where I was like, they're going to say this next. And then they'd say that next. And I'd be like, oh, that's awesome. But from like a dialogue and writing perspective, that's just kind of them like doing what they needed to do in a way. Like, and which is a little weird, I know to say, but it was very close. I actually put Indiana Jones down first. And then after thinking about it more was like, I think Stalker 2 edged out a little bit for me. So, and then Yakuza was a kind of a close third for me because that writing was great too.
Sure. Yeah. I think if anyone was ever to ask like, hey, what's that drop frame show all about? Who are the 3 hosts? I would just send them this image because it's pretty much like on point for what the 3 of us are all about. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Favorite writing for the community. Metaphor. I'm gonna guess Metaphor. I'm gonna think Metaphor probably took it. Let's see.
I think that's probably a pretty easy one.
Metaphor. Yeah, that makes sense. Not that much. It was 24% for Metaphor. Indiana Jones took second with 10%, and then Final Fantasy VII Rebirth at 9%. So, yeah, that is the community's
kind of hard. I mean, I looked at Rebirth. It's kind of hard to give like a favorite writing award to a remake. A lot, like I feel like it's a story that's already been told. Like I get it, and there is absolutely new dialogue and stuff in it, no question. But I don't know that I thought about that one, and I was like, I don't really feel like I could put that in this category.
Sure,
it's just a little, I don't know, it's a little weird.
It feels weird, and people are like I brought this up a little while ago as far as like remakes being best this or best that. It's like you had a framework to go on. Sure, you made it different, but you had a framework to go on. So it feels weird to give you an award for like something that you built off of. And they're like, what about games based on books? It's like, totally different thing. This is games based on another game. This is the same exact medium.
And I mean, there's a big argument though that it's called Final Fantasy VII Remake, but it's not really a remake. It is a new game just based on an old game. So it's more of a sequel than I don't know. But TLDR, there was enough like the previous one where I felt it wasn't quite enough to give it its own thing.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Fair enough.
Makes sense.